Hello, welcome back to our podcast, It's Always Something. If you don't know us already, here are my co-hosts, Rick and Antonio, and my name is Christopher. This is a youth-led podcast produced by the Be the Change Youth Coalition, also known as BTC. We are a group of students from Oceana High School, and our mission is to educate the community about the consequences of substance abuse and the importance of overall mental health and physical health and wellness by producing content through our show, which includes research, interviews, and our own personal insight. BTC consists of 4 different groups, which is the research group, the social media group, the summer group, and us, the podcast group. In today's episode, we'll be interviewing Jefferson Union High School School District Wellness Coordinator, Melissa Ambrose. Thank you for being with us here today, and I'm really honored to interview you.
Happy to be here.
Mm-hmm. Great.
First, we would like to say thank you to everyone who came to our summit and participated. We felt a great sense of community and saw a lot of familiar faces from recent years, but also a lot of new faces that showed a lot of interest in what we do. About over 80 people attended, and we covered many topics that fall under substance abuse and mental health by approaching with overall summit theme of kindness. Some more highlights included the photo booth and our live stream booth, of course, and also the food that we had at lunch. Here are some pictures on the screen in case you missed it. Over here we can see our sign-in booth where people signed in, and I'd like to give a shout out to the fire department. Over there you can see them, and you can kind of see the chief of police back there talking with Miss Mary. And yeah, next picture. Here we go. This is a recap after we did our activity, and people that joined us, they all shared out, and they got some free space to talk. And yeah, next picture. And here's Christopher. He's doing the same here. This is also a recap, and you can see Shema right there next to him, which is our summit leader, which leads the summit group. And yeah, overall, this is just another great summit, and we're really proud of it and proud of everyone that came.
It's great. Oh, there's another photo.
Yeah.
One more.
Here it is. This is all of us all together, all the groups. At the end, we came together for a nice picture. And yeah, that's about it.
Mm-hmm. I think our faces are just like hidden in there, we just like we're just too
must
short.
Be somewhere. No.
Yeah, that could probably be the reason.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, after all that introduction, let's get started with our interview. So, could you just tell us like who you are, what you do, and some of like what your connections to Oceana mean?
Well, I'm Melissa Ambrose. I'm the Jefferson Union High School District Wellness Coordinator. So that means my job in the district is sort of to be in charge of all the mental health stuff. Not in charge of, but sort of oversee mental health programming. There's a lot of other parts of my job, but my connection to Oceana is that I started student teaching at Oceana in I think 1997.
Wow.
So maybe before you all were born?
Yeah, I wasn't born back then.
So I was a student teacher there for a year, and then I was a teacher in the 9th and 10th grade. I was one of the teachers that started the 9-10 Humanities house program, and then I became the wellness counselor, so like what Miss Herbert does now. Do you call her Jeanette? I don't know what you call her. Anyways,
Herbert.
She's a
Miss
counselor.
Herbert.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, and then I moved up to the district office about 5 years ago. So the year that we went into the pandemic was the first year I moved up to the district office. So I've been in the district, I think it's like 26 years now, which is crazy. Yeah.
So you're like an OG.
I'm an OG.
Yes, indeed.
I'll take the OG for sure.
All right,
Yeah.
OG. I was wondering how Oceana was like 1997.
I think it was bigger. I vaguely remember it being like close to 700 students, but I'd have to check that. Yeah, it was really full. In some ways it was really similar. Like, we did senior exhibition. We didn't have the 9-10 house yet. I don't know if they had like a sophomore exhibition and a junior exhibition, but they were different. Community service was happening, interim was happening. But obviously with more students, the whole district has seen a huge decline in student population. There was just more electives. I know you all don't have a lot of electives right now because you're a small school. Yeah, I don't know. It was a great school to teach at.
There's
it was
more.
a wonderful school. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I heard about like
Yeah.
some football team.
No, not when I was there.
Not really.
What?
Wow, even
Still?
before.
Never
Oh.
since I was there. No. Mm.
Okay, then never
Yeah,
mind.
I
then.
think it was before Oceana had alternative status that there was football.
Oh,
So it's just
yeah.
like a normal high school? Like
Yes.
Terra Nova or something?
A traditional.
I don't know if
traditional,
there's such a
yeah.
thing as a normal high school. Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
school is
Traditional is a better way.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
traditional
Yeah,
high
it
school.
was, and it was much bigger at one point, but I don't really know. Yeah, I was 28 when I started student teaching there, so I was pretty. I don't remember all that.
So from
But yeah.
a humanities teacher to a wellness coordinator, how did this journey go?
So when I was a humanities teacher, do you all know Mr. Corp's classroom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know that little office in the back?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
There's
I've
like
seen
he's
it.
got a little office in there.
Yeah.
So when I was a humanities teacher, students would be like, I really want to talk to you. Can we talk? And I'd go back in the office and they would tell me something about their life and I would be very moved and we would talk and we would share. And then the other thing that happened is in 2004, I got married to my wife, but this was before gay marriage was legal. And I was sort of out at school, but not really. It was also before it was super cool for teachers to be out, meaning like safe and what was going to happen. And so we got married when San Francisco governor at the time, Gavin Newsom, San Francisco mayor, who's now our governor, we went and rode our bikes down to City Hall and got married.
Oh, that's cool.
And my hair at that time was dyed hot pink, and I was grading papers, waiting in the City Hall line, this huge line. We waited all day. And that whole thing was on national news, which I've never lived with a TV, like I didn't know what was happening. But so when I came to school the next day, apparently lots of people had seen it, and my students gave me a standing ovation. And it was like incredibly moving to me because I sort of assumed that they would be homophobic and freaked out. Probably everybody knew, but I didn't know that everybody knew. And then all sorts of students started coming out to me and started coming to me. So it just like started to be this thing where I was like, what's going on? It seems like there's counseling going on. I've always been interested in therapy. And the wellness counselor at the time was like, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And so I went to graduate school. I took a sabbatical and went to graduate school and became a social worker. And then I lucked out and got the job at Oceana when somebody was leaving. And then it became clear that mental health was getting more, even before the pandemic, more and more a necessity. And the district saw a need to have some coordination around how we were delivering mental health services and making sure that, it's hard to explain, like making sure that the people doing mental health were getting the support they needed. Right? Because if you're all day listening to students or young people or anybody that's having a really hard time, you also need to get support so that you don't sort of take it all in and then it adds to your stress levels. So we were looking at how to implement more support for those folks, as well as how to bring in more people who are in graduate school to become therapists so you all have had interns or trainees, people who are getting their master's degrees in mental health, on the campuses now for years that are seeing students as a therapeutic way, and someone needs to run that program. The program's so big now that I don't even do it anymore. We have another person at the district office that does it. So our program, when I started, we were 5 full-time mental health staff for the district, and we're 17 or 18 right now.
Wow.
So it's huge. Yeah, our district has some of the best mental health staff ratio to students of any district in San Mateo County. And we're
Really?
one of the poorest school districts, so that's how much your board cares about y'all.
Wow.
Yeah, really cares. Yeah.
That's actually really good how it's expanding and mental health is becoming more of a serious concern.
Yeah.
And they're taking it more seriously. As you said, hiring
Yeah.
more people around mental health for school districts.
We're very lucky.
We
We're
are very lucky.
Yeah.
We are very lucky for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And I can kind of see that trend personally now, since a lot of people are now opening up about their mental health, and especially us here now, what we're doing and what we're talking about, all this ties into it, and I'm really glad everyone just opening up also, but we also still need to do more outreach.
Yeah.
And yeah, so And this leads us to our next question. Can you tell us what current services the school district offers and like who some of their partners are, like the Daly City Youth Health Center? And also, is there anything that we or Be the Change can do specifically to help these programs succeed?
Ooh, that's a big question.
Yeah.
So the current services that we offer, every high school has wellness counselors. So depending on how many students are at that high school, you either have one or two. And then every high school also has a school social worker. The difference really at Oceana isn't huge, but like at Jefferson and Westmore, the difference between the social worker and the wellness counselor is that the social worker is sort of in charge of special student populations. So we have a lot of newcomer youth that are just coming into the country and they need support. We have foster youth, homeless youth, and there's higher percentages of those at Westmore and Jefferson. So the social worker is the social worker is also in charge of like big cases that need a lot of outside resources. So they coordinate like a lot of different agencies like you were talking about to help families. And then the wellness counselors see anyone that needs to be seen, right? So all the schools have either one or two wellness counselors and at least one social worker. So there's between 2 and 3 full-time mental health staff. Then all the schools also have somebody who's a therapist that serves exclusively students who have special education services. So students who have IEPs, if part of their special education services is mental health, they have a therapist on campus that they see. So we have that, and then we have me and my partner Michelle up at the district office sort of overseeing and coordinating. We have interns and trainees at all the schools that also see students, whoever needs therapy and maybe doesn't have a good situation with their health insurance or doesn't want their parents or guardians to know. California allows something called minor consent, and so we give minors the right to have a therapist at school. We don't have enough. Like there's way more of students that want it than we have. So there's usually 2 to 4 interns or trainees, but they don't come every day. So we have all of that. Then we have a really strong, Daly City Youth Health Center, the way I describe it to people is that it has 2 parents that were never together and don't talk to each other. So one of the parents of Daly City Youth Health Center is Jefferson Union High School District. The other parent is San Mateo Medical System. So the medical side of Daly City Youth Health Center, where you could go get reproductive health services, you could go get general health, like you have a cold or you need vaccines, that's all run by San Mateo Medical. The mental health side and the Project Play, where you get comprehensive sex education, not run by, but all those people are employees of Jefferson Union High School District. That Daly City Youth Health Center has a huge mental health component and a bunch of therapists and a bunch of interns and trainees, and they also place their interns and trainees in our schools. So you will have, and sometimes for students it doesn't matter and they don't care who, it's not important to you all. Are you seeing someone from Daly City Youth Health Center or someone from us? They're just seeing someone, a therapist that they like. That's what's important. We have lots of other relationships with other organizations, but Daly City Youth Health Center is the only organization that puts therapists on our campus besides San Mateo's Behavioral Health and Recovery Services. We call it BHRS. Therapists from there will also come onto our campus, also to serve students who have IEPs. It's more complicated than really folks want to hear on a podcast, but we have relationships with lots of different mental health agencies, with rape trauma services. So for young people that are suffering from a sexual assault, we have CORA, which is, I'm not going to remember, Community Organized Against Relationship Abuse, I think. And also for students that are having violence within their romantic relationships. We have the Pride Center for lots of organizations for queer and trans and non-binary students. So depending on what students need, we're organizing outside resources for them, for students. We also work with legal services for undocumented youth. We do a lot of organizing with agencies.
So many services. And they're all connected. That's really good. Is there anything that BTC can do specifically to help these programs succeed?
Well, it'd be great if you all get the word out more about what's. One thing that's wonderful is I don't know how much students know what Daly City Youth Health Services offer. the center and the reproductive, like it would be great. You could interview somebody.
Like I just
from
found out
there,
more
yeah.
about it just right now.
Yeah, like any student has the right to go to Daly City Youth Health Center confidentially and for free to get reproductive health services. So it doesn't matter what sex you identify with or what gender, like that's a right, and you're allowed to leave school during school hours to go there to get reproductive health services. You can't leave school during school hours to go to In-N-Out Burger and hang out, but you can go to Daly City Youth Health Center. They also have mental health services, and they also have general health services for any student that doesn't have insurance or has Medi-Cal or has public insurance.
All right.
So just advertising
And
all the services.
Is
would be
there
helpful.
any types of therapies that the school offers specifically?
We do not subscribe to any specific modality of therapy. I would say we're all generalists and sort of eclectic. Some of the therapists that work with the students who have IEPs do have sort of more specific modalities, predominantly cognitive behavior therapy and dialectical behavior therapy. So there's two sort of general modalities around guiding folks how to change behaviors that are not helpful for them, or changing thought patterns that are not helpful. So like if you're constantly thinking negative, like I'm a loser, nobody loves me, I'm whatever, I'm never going to be any good. We want to change, we want to direct the mind away from that.
I see.
And so there's actual modalities that can help somebody learn how to turn the mind. Like you can't actually usually turn all that off, but you can distract the mind and create other thought patterns instead.
That's actually
And
really
behaviors.
good to learn.
Yeah, it is really good
That's
to
really
learn.
good to learn.
Yeah.
You can't stop it. And then you can just shift your direction. It's really cool.
Yeah, especially so people don't feel like they're a loser at therapy, right? If you think you can stop all the hard things that your brain produces and you can't stop it, then there's another reason why your brain thinks you're a loser. The brain is very clever.
Yeah, so kind of, what do you call it, like, kind of, I don't want to say tricking the brain to think something else, but kind of something in that sense, like just kind of making it think of something else.
Yeah, we will call it thought stopping.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
what
yeah,
the CBT calls it, sort of thought stopping, and you do thought tracking. First, you do this whole thing where you track all the kinds of thoughts that you think, like you actually start to bring real awareness to what is the repetitive thinking, and then how does it make you feel, and then how does that feeling make you act. So you track it, and then you do some thought stopping, and another technique that's called cognitive reappraisal. So if I'm always saying I'm a loser, you then ask yourself, well, is that actually true? Like, am I really, like, what's the evidence that I'm a loser? And like really looking at the evidence on both sides. So that's called thought reappraisal. I think in the modality, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to word it.
So following that question, what are some like common misconceptions that come with mental health, and like why do you think those are so common?
That's such a great question. I think a lot of common we deal with a lot of folks from families and cultural backgrounds that if you go to therapy or counseling, it means you're crazy or you're weak, or there's something wrong with you. And so there's like we don't do that, right? Or like that's not something our family does or our culture does. So that's one of the things that we're working with a lot. So that's a common misconception around like, does it mean there's something wrong with you, right? And it, in my opinion, it does not mean there's something wrong with you. It means one thing, which is that you're human. And like being human is something that we all struggle with.
Yeah.
Like everybody struggles. And so one of the most common misconceptions that people have is like something's wrong with them if they need to go get mental health support. Something like is incredibly wrong with them, right?
Yeah.
And then I also think like that there's like a stain on their being, like they're broken, right? And that needing help is weak. I actually think asking for help is an incredible strength. I don't know anybody on this planet that doesn't need help.
Yeah, I think it shows lots
Yeah.
of bravery.
It does.
asking for
It
help.
shows
It really does.
tremendous
It really
courage.
does.
And tremendous courage. And then another misconception in that same line is that we can fix ourselves, right? So like if you think you're broken, you think you can be fixed. And so you come into counseling and you're hoping that like after 5 sessions, you're a completely different person. Everybody will like you. You love yourself and you're shining and you're successful from what society says is success. So I think we have to like really work with like, what can we actually do in counseling and with therapy? Like, how do we actually work with teaching ourselves to love ourselves more so that we then choose healthier behaviors, so we then feel better in the world? But not that we're broken or need to be fixed. Yeah.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Sorry,
There's a
pretty
big
loud
motorcycle
outside.
out there.
Yeah. Motorcycle.
Yeah, that was pretty loud. So yeah, I also wanted to ask, what is the most rewarding part of your job, and also what's the most challenging part?
You all are the most rewarding parts of our job. I mean, really, like, it is profound to hear the stories of courage, of resilience, of bravery, like huge hearts. You know, like sometimes there'll be a kid at a school where everybody's just like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? This kid is such a pain, right? Like causing all these problems, and the kid gets into counseling and you hear what's really going on in their life and what they're really dealing with, like the levels of difficulty and suffering and maybe trauma that their family is dealing with. Like, it is powerful. And you see, oh, that kid is incredibly strong. Like, they're showing up to school every day. And yeah, maybe they're mouthing off in class, but like, that's nothing compared to what they're living through. And then also just incredible stories of resilience of young people that come back to us and say, thank you so much, like, for helping me through that problem. Look at what I've done since then. It's just, and you guys are funny and fun. Like, it's so much more fun to hang out with teenagers than it is with adults, which is the saddest part of my job, because now I almost only hang out with adults. So that's, and then the other question, what's one of the hardest parts?
Yeah, the most challenging parts.
I mean, I think one of the most challenging parts is really what's happening in our country in the Bay Area right now. Like, right? So we live in one of the most expensive places in the Bay Area.
We do, yeah.
So even families that are quote unquote middle class are struggling. Like, it is financially very difficult to live here. Gas is $7 a gallon in a lot of places. PG&E bills are $400, $500 a month. Like, food is super expensive. So it's really challenging to hear how much our families are struggling. And then also in northern San Mateo County, where we are, we have way less services than they do in Southern County.
I bet.
Like, way less. Our staff gets paid significantly less, like if we worked at Sequoia Union High School District, they get. So like, one of the things that's hard is like, you all know this, staff turnover, admin turnover, families are struggling. And so sometimes it just feels like we're always walking uphill. And you all have a supercomputer in your pocket, which you think is super fun. And the research about mental health and cell phones is actually really scary. Like, it is directly correlated, not just to teen mental health struggles, but to adult mental health. We are all becoming ADHD. We cannot pay attention for more than a minute because we have to check our phone. Like, so we are, and then with AI, like, we're fighting this sort of technological disaster, right? Like, people are looking on TikTok and thinking, oh, I should look like that, right? And you can't. And young people are looking at porn and thinking, that's what my sexual life should be like. It's not like that. Just real life isn't like what the computers show us. And so it's like a whole other level of mental health stuff is going on.
And before we wrap up this episode, do you have any messages for students and their families who are watching or listening right now about anything we've discussed, or any additional information like resources or words of wisdom to share?
Let's see, quick messages. Put your phones down for several hours a day and pay attention to how you feel. Like, that's the most important, is how does the body feel? We have mental health services this summer, as we've been doing for the last few summers in summer school. So if anyone needs mental health support, there's wellness counselors at summer school. And if anyone needs support over the summer, the website, the JUHSD website, we put a whole list of services. It should go on every school's website as well. So things that are existing in the summer, and go outside and interrelate with each other. Don't just relate on the machine. Don't do all of your like socializing through the phone. Socialize in person. And even if you're not doing things that adults think you should be doing, please be safe. But like, it's better for you to be with each other than to be being mediated through a machine.
Yeah, because then you're a robot, right?
Yeah,
course.
well, we just
Cyborgs.
there's so much that happens to the brain when we relate to each other like this. It's very different from when we look into our phone. Yeah, like start asking your body what feels right. Don't ask your head. Ask the body. It knows. It'll tell you if it's stressed or anxious, if it feels comfortable, if it relaxed. Go do what's comfortable and relaxing.
I'm a fan of that message. I
Greatly
like it.
stated.
I like it.
Appreciate it.
So
Yeah.
thank you so much for educating us, being here, and
Thank
giving
you.
us a big insight about Oceana High School as a whole itself, therapy, the options offered at Oceana, the counseling at Oceana, and then telling us to stay away from our phones and not make sure not to like put a lot of hours on
Yeah.
our phone. You know,
Yeah.
make more eye contact rather than looking at the phone, especially with the screen
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
That's one. What's one thing you learned from this?
I learned about like the stigmatisms with going to therapy and like the intergenerational ones. I like you're there's something wrong with you if you're going to therapy. I thought that was really interesting and insightful. What about you, Antonio?
Yeah, something that you said that really touched me was about the kid who kind of is viewed as the one who acts out in class. And it really touched me when you said that when you bring them to counseling and you actually talk about them and get to know what's going on in their life and why that's happening, it really helps. So yeah, that was really touching to me.
Oh, thank you all. It's
Well,
lovely
thank
to
you.
chat. It's fun to be here.
Really glad that you came here and we got to
Thanks.
interview you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of It's Always Something, brought to you by the Be the Change Youth Coalition. We want to thank Pacific Coast TV, Miss Mary, Jasmine, Robbie, and our fellow group members, Emmy, Faith, Jacob, and Jiro, who are working behind the scenes to make this show possible. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we want to keep in touch with you guys, so follow us on Instagram and TikTok at BTC Youth Co. Thank you again, and we'll see you next season.